Also in Texas, a record-breaking drug bust. Federal agents say that they seized more than 1,300 barrels of chemicals headed to the Sinaloa cartel. Now, the shipment came from China. Authorities say it was enough to produce 420,000 pounds of meth with a street value of nearly $570 million. The chemicals were intercepted at sea, then diverted through Panama before arriving at the port of Houston. Federal officials call it the largest seizure of its kind.
A massive drug bust at the port of Houston. Officials say they stopped more than 1,000 barrels of chemicals from China headed to a cartel in Mexico.
That's enough to make nearly $500 million worth of meth. A very large drug bust. Fox's Sarah Legre joining us live near the port. And Sarah,
I want you to visualize that instead of these containers or these barrels, that you see American bodies, because that's what's happening in China's undeclared war against the United States, working with Mexico, the Sinaloa cartel, a foreign terrorist organization that is producing these illegal drugs that are killing Americans on a daily basis.
For years, Chinese chemical factories and Mexican cartels thought they could use American ports as their personal drug superhighway. They were wrong. ICE and CBP agents just proved it by crushing the largest international chemical operation in U.S. history. On September 3, 2025, federal agents seized over 300 kilograms of methamphetamine precursor chemicals at the port of Houston. This wasn't just another drug bust, it was the dismantling of a sophisticated international chemical pipeline targeting America. What we witnessed was nothing short of chemical warfare against our communities. The seized shipment reveals the calculated nature of this attack. 12 shipping containers, 6 filled with benzyl alcohol weighing nearly 165,000 kilograms, and 6 containing N-methylformamide weighing over 151,000 kilograms. These aren't street-level drug busts. This is industrial-scale chemical warfare being waged against America. Chinese manufacturers have perfected a system of mass-producing and exporting these death-dealing chemicals. The operation begins in Chinese chemical factories, where these precursors are manufactured under the guise of legitimate industrial purposes. Benzyl alcohol, officially a pharmaceutical solvent, N-methylformamide, supposedly an organic solvent for industrial applications, but in reality, they are weapons-grade chemicals designed for one purpose: mass production of methamphetamine. The export methods are equally sophisticated. These chemicals ship from Shanghai, China, meticulously documented as industrial solvents, perfectly legal products on paper. The shipping manifests, container documentation, and export paperwork create a veneer of legitimacy. Chinese manufacturers understand international shipping regulations and exploit every loophole to ensure their deadly cargo reaches its destination. On the receiving end, the Sinaloa cartel has built procurement networks that rival multinational corporations. Their global supply chain operators monitor shipments in real time, track containers across oceans, and coordinate with corrupt officials to ensure smooth passage. This isn't random smuggling. It's precision logistics designed to move death-dealing chemicals with corporate efficiency. The cartel's distribution networks further demonstrate their business sophistication. Once the precursors reach Mexico, an intricate ground transportation system moves them to clandestine laboratories. These aren't basement operations. They're industrial-scale facilities capable of producing a ton of meth weekly, operated by chemists who understand exactly how to transform these precursors into street-ready methamphetamine. What makes this operation truly insidious is how it exploits legitimate shipping infrastructure, the same ports, shipping lanes, and transportation systems that move consumer goods, food, and medicine become unwitting accomplices in chemical warfare. Houston Port, America's busiest waterway by foreign tonnage, processes thousands of containers daily. Hiding deadly cargo among legitimate commerce creates the perfect cover. The scale of this chemical warfare is staggering. The seizure represents enough precursor chemicals to produce nearly 190,000 kilograms of methamphetamine with a street value of $569 million. And that's just one shipment. Intelligence suggests similar operations run continuously, with dozens of shipments moving through various ports along America's coastline. In 2023 alone, over 34,800 Americans died from overdoses involving psychostimulants, primarily methamphetamine. Each barrel of chemicals seized represents potential lives saved, families spared the devastation of addiction and death. The operation that led to this record-breaking seizure wasn't luck or chance. It was the culmination of sophisticated intelligence gathering, strategic coordination, and tactical execution by multiple federal agencies. ICE and Homeland Security investigations have been developing intelligence networks specifically targeting the chemical supply chain for years. They've infiltrated shipping companies, placed informants within port operations, and developed sophisticated digital monitoring systems that flag suspicious container movements. These intelligence efforts created a comprehensive map of how Chinese manufacturers and Mexican cartels move precursor chemicals through legitimate ports. The coordination between federal agencies was unprecedented. Homeland Security investigations, Customs and Border Protection, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the FBI formed a unified front. International cooperation extended to Panama, Guatemala, and Mexico, creating a multinational effort to intercept these shipments before they reached cartel laboratories. What's remarkable about this operation was how federal agents identified these specific containers among thousands processed daily at Houston Port. Advanced risk assessment algorithms flagged these shipments based on origin, content declaration, shipping routes, and dozens of other variables. Artificial intelligence systems cross-referenced this data against known trafficking patterns, while human intelligence provided critical context. The tactical execution at Houston Port demonstrated federal authorities' growing sophistication. Rather than waiting for the chemicals to reach Mexican soil, they intercepted the shipments on the high seas, as U.S. Attorney Janine Ferris-Pirro described. This proactive approach prevented the chemicals from ever reaching cartel laboratories. The seizure method itself required precise coordination. Acting Director Todd Lyons of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement revealed that after intercepting the shipments, Homeland Security Investigations International worked closely with foreign law enforcement partners to consolidate the shipments in Panama and bring them here to the Port of Houston. The sheer scale of the seizure presented logistical challenges that demonstrate the operation's magnitude. Moving 300 barrels of chemicals required 24 18-wheeler trucks to transport them from the port to secure HSI storage facilities. This wasn't just grabbing a few packages, it was a military-scale logistics operation. What made this interdiction legally possible was a shift in how we classify and combat cartel operations. On January 20, 2025, the administration designated the Sinaloa cartel as a foreign terrorist organization. This classification provided federal prosecutors with new legal authority under terrorism forfeiture provisions, enabling them to execute seizures with unprecedented speed and scope. This designation marks a turning point in America's approach to cartel operations. As Pirro stated, we can now strike faster and hit harder against these terrorist networks. International cooperation has also advanced significantly. Chinese authorities now face increasing pressure to crack down on chemical manufacturers supplying cartels, while Mexican authorities work more closely with U.S. agencies to target cartel operations. The tactical success of this operation sends a clear message to international cartels about American port security. The days of exploiting our infrastructure as a superhighway for chemical warfare are over. Federal agencies now possess the intelligence capabilities, legal framework, and tactical expertise to dismantle these operations before they reach American soil. The impact of this seizure extends far beyond statistics. Let's put this in perspective. The chemicals intercepted could have produced nearly 190,000 kilograms of methamphetamine with a street value of $569 million. That's not just money, it's human lives. Every kilogram represents countless potential overdoses, families torn apart, and communities devastated. By comparison, in fiscal year 2024, U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized a total of 78,925 kilograms of methamphetamine along the entire southwest border. This single maritime operation more than tripled that annual figure, demonstrating the massive scale of chemical trafficking through our ports. The disruption to Sinaloa operations will be significant. Replacing 300,000 kilograms of precursor chemicals isn't simple, even for an organization with the cartel's resources. Their supply chain now faces increased scrutiny, higher costs, and greater risks. Intelligence analysts estimate it could take months for the cartel to recover from this blow, creating a window for additional enforcement actions against their operations. This operation also reveals the evolving nature of cartel supply chains. The Houston-Galveston seaport has become an increasingly central hub in their chemical trafficking operations. As traditional land border security tightens, cartels have adapted by exploiting maritime shipping channels. This intelligence will inform future interdiction strategies. The most significant implication is the shift toward targeting precursor chemicals rather than finished products. As ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons explained, the strategy now focuses on disrupting supply lines before chemicals reach manufacturing facilities. This approach strikes at the foundation of cartel operations rather than just intercepting end products. Federal agencies are now developing new strategies for chemical interdiction based on this successful operation. These include enhanced port screening technologies specifically designed to identify chemical precursors, expanded international partnerships with shipping companies to flag suspicious cargo, advanced artificial intelligence systems to identify anomalies in shipping documentation, increased cooperation with chemical manufacturers to track potentially diverted products, and new legal frameworks that leverage terrorism designations to expedite seizures. The warning to international cartels couldn't be clearer. American ports are no longer viable channels for chemical weapons trafficking. As Director of Field Operations Judd Murdoch of Customs and Border Protection stated, the Sinaloa cartel's activities are not merely criminal, they are acts of terror that threaten our nation's security. This operation also demonstrates how the classification of cartels as terrorist organizations fundamentally changes the equation. The legal authority provided under terrorism forfeiture provisions gives federal prosecutors powerful new tools. This operation marks the first time a seizure warrant was issued under terrorism statutes for material support of a foreign terrorist group, creating a precedent for future interdictions. Looking forward, Americans can expect an expansion of chemical interdiction capabilities across all major ports. The success at Houston provides a blueprint for similar operations nationwide. Federal agencies are already implementing lessons learned to enhance screening, improve intelligence sharing, and accelerate response times. This interdiction represents more than just a record-breaking seizure. It's the beginning of a new era in America's defense against chemical warfare targeting our communities. By striking at the source of production rather than the end product, federal agencies have demonstrated a strategic shift that promises greater effectiveness in dismantling the infrastructure of addiction and death. The Houston port seizure represents a turning point in America's fight against international chemical trafficking. By intercepting 300,000 kilograms of meth precursors before they reached cartel laboratories, federal agents have struck a decisive blow against the infrastructure of addiction and death targeting our communities. This operation demonstrates the evolution of federal enforcement strategies, from reactive to proactive, from interdicting finished products to dismantling supply chains, from treating cartels as criminal enterprises to recognizing them as terrorist organizations waging chemical warfare against America. The sophisticated intelligence gathering, international cooperation, and tactical execution that made this seizure possible provide a blueprint for future operations. As federal agencies expand these capabilities across all major ports, the message to Chinese manufacturers and Mexican cartels becomes clear. American infrastructure will no longer serve as a conduit for your chemical weapons. This isn't just a victory for law enforcement. It's a victory for every family and community threatened by methamphetamine addiction. It's proof that with the right intelligence, legal framework, and tactical approach, we can disrupt the pipeline of chemical warfare targeting American lives. The battle is far from over, but for the first time, we're striking at the foundations of cartel operations rather than just their products. This proactive